Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. The internet has most definitely been siding with Johnny Depp in this non-stop unfolding JD and Amber Heard court battle fiasco. And today, I'm here to give you the top 10 reasons why. Let's get into it. Coming in at number 10 is none other than the many inconsistencies of her story and how they've all lined up so far in the trial. More importantly, the timelines of the events themselves. Heard has pretty much been exposed on a regular basis now about the amount of times her stories just did not add up. One incident in particular came from her lawyer, Elaine Beat, during an opening statement where she mentions the makeup products Heard had to use constantly to cover up the marks and bruises of the alleged physical violence she claims to have suffered at the hands of Depp. Now, this is known to be a very common tactic in many DV relationships, except for the fact that in Heard's case, this was all seemingly a lie, because the company she had mentioned in court, Milani Cosmetics, stepped forward to inform the public that the exact product Heard claimed to have used as her scapegoat hadn't existed at the time of her making this statement originally, and was later released the following year. Although this could have merely been an innocent mistake on Heard and her legal team's end with a mix of a brand and products, this is still quite a messy puncture in her already leaky narrative thus far. Sliding into 9th spot for today is Heard's former allegations tied to her previous relationship before Depp with ex-girlfriend Tazia Van Ree. Now, this may come as a shock to many, but it has been noted by many sources that Heard was in fact physically violent towards Tazia during their relationship. This rocky situation took an even sharper turn when the police were called and Heard was later arrested following the incident. Although Heard was initially released on 2 years of probation, this did not stop her from going on to claim that the officer in question who dealt with her arrest was indeed quote-unquote and misogynistic, which had quickly later been debunked following the police officer's Facebook post clearing the air. It has since been made known that the officer is also a part of the LGBT community, as she identifies as a lesbian, turning Heard's former statement into nothing but yet another falsified point. If this still doesn't scream karma to you, I'm not quite sure what will. Our number 8 reason for today is on a bit of a lighter note than the previous ones, but nonetheless still just as mind-boggling, because Heard has been proven to contradict herself on even the smallest things, most recently on whether or not she was already a fan of Depp upon meeting and later falling in love with him. During one of her testimonies in court, Heard can be seen saying that she was quote-unquote didn't really know who he was, and I wasn't a fan of his work. But this is an entirely different statement than the one she had mentioned in a casual The Rum Diary interview later down the road, where she quote-unquote says, I mean, who isn't a fan of Johnny's? That's a given. Even later adding onto her former statement by saying, he's been a cultural icon and a talented actor for as long as I can remember. Now, I don't know about you all, but those two declarations seem very contradicting to each other in my personal opinion, and neither of the two have yet to be challenged as to which one is actually accurate. Moving on to reason number 7 is Heard and her temporary restraining order against Depp. This order was placed into motion only days after their file for divorce on Heard's end, where she had gone to a courthouse to seek the order against her then ex-husband due to an alleged major fight the two had engaged in a week prior to this incident. According to Heard, the cops were called to action and Depp wasn't allowed within 100 feet of her. But here's where things get a little shaky though, because words from the cops who were on the scene at the time had since admitted that there was no physical evidence of violence on Heard having taken place following the fight, despite Heard's original claims. It was later brought up that a shocking audio record came about shortly afterwards, basically breaking down Heard showing up to Depp's hotel room in San Francisco at the time, and quote-unquote begging Depp to talk and cuddle with her. It is also hinted that Heard had potentially pressed for further physical engagement, but in short, nothing of that has said to be particularly true. And our number 6 point for today is the Kate Moss, JD, and AH situation, where Heard admits to having hit Depp for the first time the same day she made it known she was afraid that Depp would have pushed her sister down the stairs. She went on to talk about the fear she felt over this situation on the stand. But things got a little weird when out of nowhere, Heard threw this wild allegation Depp's way by bringing Moss into the story, who was proven to be unhurt in the end. It has since been known that they would fight a lot, but that she was never physically injured or hurt in any way from this, and that Moss and Depp do remain as friends to this day. Coming in for top 5 at number 5 is the topic of Amber Heard's ACLU donation, or more like her not donation, because according to the ACLU, Heard had paid less than half of what she was originally promised to give them. But things get a little problematic because according to the company, due to Heard's financial struggles back then, Depp had to donate an additional $100,000, and another $500,000 was rumoredly given by Elon Musk, who she was alleged to be seeing after her breakup with Depp. Number 4 lies the cheating allegations against Heard with Elon Musk. Following my previous point, Heard admitted to quote-unquote filling in the space with Musk after her previous relationship with Depp. As the pre-recording deposition played on Wednesday, April 27th, Heard also claimed she wasn't in love with Musk after Depp's lawyers read their text exchange. Heard originally sparked these romance speculations amid her divorce with Depp, to which the businessman wasted no time in opening up his feelings of the young actress to the world. It only took the pair 5 months of being apart from one another for them to briefly rekindle the romance before calling it quits for good later that year. In third place for today's video, Amber and James Franco, moreover the suspicious of cheating on Heard's end while she was still with Depp. It is said that the incident took place in New York in May 2014 when Heard was filming The Adderall Diaries alongside Franco at the time. Things became entirely messy here when Heard had accused Depp of kicking her to the floor following his allegation against her and Franco, going so far as to say Depp quote-unquote hated James Franco. Moving on to the second place point for today is Kate James and her testimony that Amber is basically the worst. Her former assistant made claims that she was overall difficult to work with and filled with rage on a regular basis. James had gone on to say that although she has no evidence of having ever seen Heard get physical with Depp, she was a victim to Heard's angry outbursts and blind fits of rage on several occasions. According to James, Heard once allegedly spit in her face after she had asked the actress for a raise. Following the statement, Heard was also accused of sending incoherent text messages as early as 2 a.m. in the morning. When asked about Depp, on the other hand, James really only had positive things to say, noting that he is a typically calm and shy dude, like a quote-unquote total southern gentleman she proceeded to finalize. And finally, the number one reason why practically the entire internet is hashtag Team Johnny is the shocking audio confession from early last year, where Heard admits to having hit Depp after explicitly saying she did not. Now this comes following the former couple trying to work through their marital issues back in 2015. Still, this issue has now been proven to be true, given the hard evidence shaped in the form of the seemingly explosive audio confession mentioned earlier. If Amber has lied about all these 10 things today, who's to say she hasn't been lying about so much more? And well, that is it for today's video. Please feel free to sound off in the comments what your thoughts are on today's tea. This was your host, Michaela, and I'll be dishing some even hotter updates in the next one. The pleasure has been mine, and this is me, signing off. Hard evidence shaped in the form of a seemingly explosive audio confession. Oops, sorry. Still, this issue has now... Nothing of that has said to be particularly true. But that she was never physically injured or hurt in any way from this, and that Moss and Depp do remain as friends to this day. Coming in for number 5 at... Oh, sorry. I'm gonna do that one more time. Coming in for top 5 at number 5 is the original claims. It was later brought to a shocking... Oops, sorry. One more time. It was later brought up that a shocking audio record came about shortly after with Depp. As the pre-recording deposition played on Wednesday, April 27th,